Okay, let's dive right into this. You know how we're constantly bombarded with the idea that the absolute secret to modern business success is like a new piece of software, some trendy management framework, or the absolute latest AI integration? Well, in a recent explainer of Ian Slade's work, there's this deeply compelling and honestly totally counterintuitive premise. What if the ultimate strategy for dominating today's market isn't some cutting edge technological breakthrough, but something entirely ancient? Seriously. Today, we're unpacking a framework that suggests the key to your future success actually requires looking thousands of years into the past.
So, what exactly is the secret to modern business? It's the literal million-dollar question keeping founders awake at night, right? Look, in today's hyper-accelerated corporate world, it is incredibly easy to fall straight into the trap of hustle culture. We just assume getting ahead absolutely requires buying into the next big thing. And think about the sheer exhaustion of it all. We spend millions on complex integrations and productivity tools, yet we still have teams burning out, projects tanking, and companies completely losing their identities. We kind of operate under this flawed assumption that the solution to a deeply complex, fundamentally human problem is just a software update. But throwing more tech at a cracked foundation, that doesn't fix it. It just hides the cracks for a little while.
Imagine, just for a second, dropping the great philosophers of ancient Greece right into the middle of a modern boardroom. Honestly, they wouldn't be impressed by our multi-monitor tech stacks or our real-time analytics dashboards. They'd probably be alarmed by our total lack of philosophical infrastructure. Silicon Valley loves to champion the mantra of move fast and break things, right? Well, Athenian decision-making was the exact opposite. It was deliberate, deeply debated, and completely rooted in the human condition. They understood that the vehicle, the technology itself, really doesn't matter if the driver completely lacks discipline and profound self-awareness. Real success requires a much older, way more deeply rooted foundation. Now, let's be incredibly clear about what we're exploring in this explainer. This is absolutely not some esoteric history lesson. We aren't just looking at pleasant little quotes to embroider on a throw pillow. No, we are talking about highly functional, active operating systems for the modern mind. In fact, some of the highest performing CEOs in the world today literally treat ancient philosophies like Stoicism as their ultimate executive playbooks. They're actively dusting off antiquity to find architectural strategies for navigating extreme market volatility. And it proves that these concepts are just as lethal in a boardroom today as they were in the ancient forum. So let's unpack the first of these ancient tools, the Delphic maxim, know thyself. Now, in the context of aggressive business strategy, this isn't a cliche, it's a brutal operational audit. Consider a really common modern scenario. You've got a brilliant, visionary founder who is incredible at product design, but let's be real, absolutely terrible at day-to-day logistics. If that founder's ego prevents them from acknowledging their weakness, they're going to try to micromanage operations, and they will slowly crush their own company. Actually knowing thyself means having the radical self-awareness to admit that specific blind spot, and then going out and hiring a ruthless chief operating officer to handle the logistics. It's about understanding your absolute baseline before you ever step foot into the market. All right, let's look at another profound piece of ancient wisdom. Slow and steady wins the race. Sure, we hear this as kids in Aesop's fables, but as an adult scaling a business, it is a crucial counterweight to a massive modern disease, premature scaling. We see this all the time. A startup gets a massive injection of venture capital and immediately dumps every cent into acquiring users for a leaky, unproven product. They get this rapid, chaotic burst of momentum, and then, boom, they completely collapse because the foundation just wasn't ready. Slow and steady dictates that you build the product right, secure the foundation, and achieve true product-market fit long before you pour fuel on the fire. Because endurance, it always outlasts chaotic speed. The real reason these concepts are so vital is simple. Human psychology in business simply hasn't changed. Sure, the technology we use to execute a trade has evolved from, clay tablets to quantum computers, but the human brain executing that trade? Exactly the same. Fear, greed, ambition, ego. These forces are identical whether you're trading olive oil in the ancient Mediterranean or cryptocurrency in Manhattan. That is exactly why these aren't just historical footnotes. They are living blueprints, timeless truths that actively target and solve the most complex, recurring human challenges in our modern workspace. Ian Slade maps this ancient wisdom onto three massive modern hurdles where our flashy technology almost always fails us: handling setbacks, building trust, and leading teams. These are the absolute breaking points of modern business. You can have the most expensive software on the market, but if you don't know how to navigate a catastrophic failure, or earn the genuine loyalty of your client base, or stabilize a panicked team, you just won't survive.
So let's break down exactly how antiquity tackles each one of these modern headaches step by step.
First up, handling setbacks. Imagine this, a highly anticipated Q4 product launch completely flops. It happens, right? Well, a reactionary leader without a solid foundation immediately blames external factors, like market conditions, or maybe they just fire the marketing team in a sheer panic. But a leader operating deeply on that principle of know thyself does a totally different calculus. They ask the hard questions. Did I communicate the vision poorly? Did my own confirmation bias cause me to ignore the early warning data? This ancient wisdom takes failure and shifts it from being a fatal external blow into a highly specific, fixable data point based entirely on your own internal capabilities.
The second major hurdle is building trust. And look, trust is the ultimate currency of business. It's the one thing you absolutely cannot growth hack. Think about the difference between a company that aggressively spams a purchased email list just to hit a quick end-of-month sales quota versus a brand that spends years quietly over-delivering on value and customer service. The first company gets a fast, temporary spike in revenue, sure, but they permanently burn their reputation. The second company? They build an unshakable empire of loyal advocates. Slow and steady is literally the only authentic algorithm for earning deep, sustainable trust.
And that brings us to the ultimate test in any corporate environment, leading teams through chaos. Picture a Monday morning crisis. Servers are suddenly down, a major client is threatening to walk away, and the internal communication channels are just sheer panic. A manager who relies solely on their tech stack but totally lacks emotional regulation is just going to add to that chaos. But a leader anchored in ancient principles, they are the calm in the storm. Their profound self-awareness prevents them from panicking, and their steady approach dictates a methodical step-by-step solution. The team literally absorbs that grounded energy. It fundamentally transforms the entire dynamic of leadership. So I want you to think deeply about your own professional trajectory right now. Are you frantically trying to out-tech your competition, or are you trying to out-sync them? If your entire strategy is just playing the software arms race, always chasing the newest update to get an edge, you are eventually going to burn out, or you'll simply be outspent by a bigger competitor. Securing a true, lasting competitive advantage requires a totally different orientation. It means stepping off the treadmill of constant, immediate gratification and adopting a much, much wider perspective. This demands a brutal, entirely paradoxical shift in how we operate. We have to break the addiction to the horizon. Step one is acknowledging that we must stop solely obsessing over the future and the next big Silicon Valley trend. Because step two is realizing that to see further into the future of your industry than anyone else, you actually have to be willing to look way, way back. Mining the past for these deeply rooted human truths provides an unshakable foundation that your competitors simply cannot copy and paste. So, the next time you hit a massive wall in your career, whether it's navigating a brutal project failure, trying to unify a fractured team, or attempting to win over a deeply skeptical client, skip the frantic software update. Dust off the ancients. You have literally thousands of years of human beta testing entirely at your disposal. The only question is, how will you apply their wisdom tomorrow?